All right. I think that should be there and working, sort of, hopefully. We'll see. Not entirely certain how perfect all of this setup is. It's a little scuffed. I have not done this in the new new setup, but we'll just see how this goes. So we are live. How are you guys doing? I'm gonna go ahead and sorry, just doing some getting all this stuff working, seeing if this is making sure I've got, yeah, cameras there, that's there. Again, I apologize, first time doing this with this new setup, but with all of that out of the way, let's just start getting into this. Sweet, glad to see it is working. All right, cool. So today I'm going to be building those 3 ideas that I put out in the video yesterday. That's going to be a REST API, a little CLI type app, and then some sort of cron job type thing. Not entirely certain what I want to do for the cron job yet. I'm going to come up with that last because I'm going to do that last. But we're going to start with the REST API because I think that's where the most value is going to come. And I think that's the best thing to use Go for is going to be these server type things. Thank you, Carlos. Glad to see you are here, everyone. So let's go ahead and just make a new repository of this. So I am going to be making all of these public for everyone. I will make this a public repo. This will be saved afterward. I'm going to cut this into a video afterwards when I'm done so that you guys can reference this later. So I'm just going to call this live go examples. So you got live go examples, a REST API, CRON, just CRON app, and a CLI app. So you got 3 different apps we're going to build here. We're going to make this public. Let's initialize this with a README template. Let's do Go. Should have one here. And then we can go ahead, license MIT. Free to use, copy whatever I do here. Don't really care. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Create this, and now let's get started. So I'm going to go ahead, I use the GitHub CLI. Let's go ahead and clone this in here. And then don't really care, cd live go examples. And let's go ahead and REST API. So this will be the first one we make, and let's do code REST API. So I'm going to go ahead, open this up. Hopefully this looks okay. Then we can zoom in here. I want to zoom in. And then let's go ahead and just scaffold out the project. And then once we scaffolded it, I'm going to probably go through and actually plan it out. I'm going to do like a more detailed diagram of sort of what we want to do, data model, all of that stuff should be pretty useful. So the first thing we need to do is go mod init. So we're going to initialize a new Go package. So let's do go mod init, and then we're going to do github.com/bmdavis419/ what did I call this? Live Go examples. Live Go examples / and then this first one is going to be REST API. So this is our first package. We have created our Go mod file. I'm going to go ahead and make my main.go right here. I'm going to do package main, then I'm going to do func main. Delete that, and then fmt.println, hello world. There we go. And just like that, main.go. And now we are up and running. So our Go app is created. Now we're going to go ahead and get some packages in here. Like I said during the video, big fan of Fiber, big fan of MongoDB. Going to be using them both in here. Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah. There's definitely a huge lack of Go stuff on YouTube. That's sort of why I'm focusing on it right now. At work, I'd use TypeScript, but for my own side projects and stuff, all of the backend for like my company's site here, this is all built using Go, so I'm very familiar with the language. I think it's super underrated and definitely worth using. So yeah, that's why I want to make some more good Go stuff. Let's do Fiber GoLang. So in here, I didn't like do anything crazy to prepare for this. I sort of wanted to just show you what this looks like in real life instead of doing something hyper scripted. So this is just sort of how it works and feels to typically get stuff done like this. So the first thing we need to do is just go ahead and download our first package, and that's going to be Fiber. So I'm going to go ahead and scaffold out the Fiber, get a hello world request working. Then I'm going to add MongoDB in there, get us just like pulling something random out of the database. Then once those 2 things are done, we're going to go ahead and draw out and architect our server and backend and, you know, figure out what we even want to do. If you guys have ideas on what you want me to make an API for, like just come up with some random thing that I can basically create, read, update to, whatever, put it in chat. Let me know. I'd love to get something more creative than like to-dos or something, but don't really know. So Fiber compared to the standard HTTP server, the standard HTTP does not have any like real wrappers in it. So what Fiber is going to give you and what these frameworks give you is they abstract out the base HTTP package that Go is shipped with. So Go ships with this sort of standard net HTTP package, I believe, and you can just make an API without any of these packages. But what these will do is these will make implementing features like middleware, cores, grouping, stuff like that. I'll make that 100 times easier for you versus it will versus if you just try and do all that raw, you can do it, but it's going to be harder. The reason why I pick Fiber, and I know what's it called? So Fiber is not, it doesn't use HTTP2, and I know I saw comments about that in the last video. I know it's not HTTP2, but the reason why I still like it is because it's extremely fast. And if you're doing like enterprise stuff, like to someone else, like if your API is going to be external, then I don't think Fiber is a great plan because, yeah, you do need that HTTP2. But if it's just internal, like for me, it's just from my Fiber app to my Insider Viz app, it doesn't matter. I don't need all the HTTP2 features. So it's just stupid fast. Fast HTTP is stupid fast. So that's the reason why I use this here. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do the hello world. So I'm just going to copy paste this. I'm going to go ahead and just put this in here. Paste that in. So all this is going to do is, whoops. So now if we do go run main.go, we can go ahead and see, I use Thunder client for my HTTP client. You'll see in here, this is some work I was doing for Insider Viz. We just go to localhost 3000, run a get request, hello world. There we go. So this will send us back the basic thing, exactly what we had here, nothing too crazy. So now that we have this working, we can go ahead and sort of structure this out a little bit more. So when we initialize our app, we're going to need to initialize more than just our app. We're going to need to initialize our MongoDB instance. And I also like to use an environment variable package because it's obviously stuff like your connection string and that kind of thing. You don't want to just expose that and clear text or commit that to a Git repo or whatever. So you want to go ahead and put that in a .env file. So I can do in this .env, I'm going to do MongoDB URI equals yep, so it's going to be this, and then the database name is going to be whatever we decide the data model is going to be. For now, I'll just do test. So I have this in here. I need to go ahead and add a git ignore, .git ignore, and then we'll add .env because we don't want to commit our environment variables to the source control. That's a very important thing. Is there a nodemon package to do stuff like hot reloading? I actually don't know. I haven't tried. I've found that I make changes infrequently enough that I don't really need it, although that would be a nice quality of life type thing. I assume you could do that with like a makefile because I've seen this sort of, instead of using a package.json, a lot of people use a makefile for Go. I personally don't, but maybe we could do that here. We'll look at that in a second. But regardless, let's go ahead and add MongoDB to this. So MongoDB GoLang. So we go to this, we can go to the MongoDB Go driver. Then the quick start guide is really great. It's got basically everything you would need here. Let's just go ahead and get the driver in here. So Control C, go get MongoDB, and then get this is the .env package I like to use. This is a super, super helpful thing to have. Oops, let me put this in first. Is that already in? Driver Mongo, yeah. So I don't need this again. Just going to go ahead and do this. I think Go is great for the backend. Destiny. I think it is it's really fast. It's really efficient. It's sort of, I think it exists in the same realm as like C# or Java. I think C#, Java, and Go kind of exist in that in between. You've got like TypeScript and Python, which are the like more front end type thing. I mean, obviously Python's more ML, but I guess TypeScript really, like TypeScript exists over here. That's the like, you're doing stuff on the front end. And if you're going to have a TypeScript backend, I think you want to tightly couple that to your front end. I don't think that there's a benefit. If you're going to have your front end backend be super decoupled, I don't think that you want to take the performance hit that is TypeScript if you don't have to. Now, if you're doing like a Next.js type thing, the front and back end being like right next to each other with TRPC, then yeah, use TS. But for like a more, if you need to separate out your front and back end, I think use a more performant language. And I think C#, Java, Go all exist in the same place. Then Rust and C are way over here. Those are systems languages, not just application languages. So little different there. But now that we have these packages installed, let's go ahead and boot up MongoDB. So MongoDB compass. So I've got this. What are you doing? Where? Sorry. I have like, I'm trying a new setup with my like multi-monitor thing, and it does not seem to be very happy with me right now. So down here, MongoDB compass. Where is it? Quit. Oh, what is it doing? All right, I don't know. MongoDB Compass is being weird right now. So what we're going to do is we are just going to spin up a new MongoDB instance from Railway. So one of the easiest things you can do is you can just provision some new MongoDB for free. Stupidly easy. So I'm just going to do that right now because for some reason my localhost instance is being really annoying. So let me pull this. Let me bring this down here, make sure I don't leak anything. Connect, grab this. Let's go back up here. Let's go into my .env. I'm going to bring this down here as well. Reason being is this is technically publicly exposed, so I don't really want to leak this, but there we go. So my MongoDB instance is now hooked up to the Railway. The connection string is if you just go to connect on the Railway tab, you just grab that. That is all I did there. Nothing fancy. Is this still open? Whoops. Oh yeah, okay, we're good. So Railway is still open. Go down here. This. I've never used air for hot reload, but that is I'll definitely take a look at that. This is going to be a live demo. So this is going to be the live Go demo. Cool. We've got this and then our MongoDB instance here. So now that that is in here, let's go back to the quick start and go and then just do what they say in here. So what you're going to notice in here is within this main function, there's a ton of boilerplate in here. And that is one of the biggest issues that we're going to run into. And I think my biggest problem with Go is look at all of this boilerplate. This is just to connect to the database. All of this if error : equal like loading from the .env, all this stuff. Very annoying, but it's sort of just what comes with the language. So Railway is very similar to Vercel. I think they're very similar. They have a similar, how do I put this? They do similar things. They take the like low level, really obnoxious AWS type thing, which yeah, AWS is really powerful, but it kind of sucks to work with and then they just make it nice to work with. So really like that about them, and they look very similar. All of these sort of new like front-end tech products that make the backend, make development stupid easy, all these new packages and tools, they all sort of look the same. They kind of have that look. If we go over here to like the TRPC documentation, like this is just sort of the look you're going to get with most of these. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But yeah, and this guy over here looks very similar to Vercel. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and do, so what I'm doing in here now is I am loading my environment variables. So I like breaking these things down into smaller functions to make my life easier and to make this easier to deal with. So I have my load environment, and then let's going to do func load, let's do start MongoDB. And then what do I want to spit out of this? Because remember, when we get this out, we're going to get a MongoDB client. So right here, when we do mongo.connect, we get this client and this error. And then if we get an error, then I'm just going to crash. I'm not going to do any like fancy error handling or whatever. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this client, and then we want to keep this client somewhere. So in different projects, I've done this in different ways, but I think probably the easiest way to do this is I'm going to make a config package. And that config is going to contain, no, actually, let's do a database package. So load env, this is going to stay within main. So I'm going to make this lowercase. Within Go, if you are similar with how scoping works, in Go, functions are scoped based on whether or not they're capitalized, whether the first letter of the function name is capitalized or lowercase. So the reason why it's yelling at me here is because we never use this function and it's private scoped. So I can only use it within the main package. And then I'm going to go ahead in here and I'm going to make a new package called database. So I'm going to make a database package, and then we're going to just do db.go, and I'm going to do package database. And then within here, I'm going to make all my scripts that I need to actually manage our database. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to create a public instance variable that is going to be my pointer to my database client. So I'm going to do this guy right up here. So it's going to be a client. So let's go ahead and make a function here. That's going to be start MongoDB. And we need this to return an error. So if we return an error, that if this stuff fails, we'll do that. So this will have already gone. So let's go ahead and do this. Grab all of this stuff. Do that. And then we can set up all of this. What's really nice about the VS Code integration here is if you just save, it will just load everything for you. So it makes your life stupid easy. So we're going to do var db. Let's just do client. Or let's do Mongo client, and then that's going to be a pointer to mongo.client. And then we're going to say, Mongo client, and then we're not reassigning this. So then this error, so I need to do var error. So there we go. So in here, I have this context.todo. I'm not going to really worry about context for the sake of this. We're just going to have it in here. But what I'm doing is I'm just setting, so I'm connecting to my Mongo instance, setting it to this instance variable, and then returning an error if we get it. Now, if you notice over here in the docs, we have this defer function, and we need to disconnect from our database once everything terminates. But I can't do that in here, because if I ran this defer disconnect, whenever this function terminates, which it'll terminate pretty quickly the way I'm going to be using it, it'll just instantly disconnect us from the database and then ruin the whole point of this, everything we're doing here. So what I need to do instead is I need to make a func close MongoDB. And then that's going to just be, exactly what Copilot said. We're just going to do Mongo client.disconnect. So now up here, we have this way to start our database instance. So this will start it. This will give us a connection to it, and this will close it. So it's all we really need to interface with it. There are some more fancy things we can do with this. And maybe later on, if we want to do some concurrency stuff, we'll look at doing that. So we have this close MongoDB and then start MongoDB. Java greater than GoLang? I don't know. In school, but when I was in college, we used Java all the time, and I tried building Insider Viz with Spring and all that stuff, and I don't know. I don't like how verbose it is. The amount of code that you need to write, and I guess how verbose it is, and I'm looking at this, but you get the idea. Really not a huge fan of Java personally, but it works. It's a great industry language. Okay, so now that we have all of this stuff, so we have client.database.collection. Actually, let's be even more intelligent about this. So I have this pointer that I was going to publicly make access. Sorry, I was going to give this access to make this public so that you can access it anywhere within the app. But I think actually a cleaner way of doing this would be to do client.database.whatever.collection, because every time we want to do a query, we need to get a pointer to some collection or something like that. So let's just do get collection. So func get collection, and then we're just going to pass in name as a string. And then this is going to return a pointer to a Mongo collection. There's no error handling on this, right? Yep. Mongo.collection. Bam. Okay. So that's it. And then our database name. What do we have in here? What is our database name? I guess database test. Well, we can actually make whatever database we want. So I'm just going to say... yeah, let's do test for now, and we can change this later. Yeah, it's definitely not a bad thing to disconnect from it. It's just that the way that I'm using it here is I want to just open a connection and just let that connection live on throughout the life cycle of the app, because this is not a serverless app. This is going to be running on a server instance. So when we spin this up, this is going to just persist forever. So this pointer is just going to persist between requests, and it'll make it way easier if we just open it up once. And then when we terminate our instance, it'll spin everything down. So we'll go back to this Go over here. So we have our main.go. So now that we have done all that stuff for our database, we need a initialize app sort of thing. So I'm going to make a func init app, and then that is going to be a local function, because what I'm going to be doing here is one of the things that has been complained a lot about with Go is that error handling sucks. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to consolidate all of my errors all the way up to main. So I'm going to sort of chain these up, and you'll see what I mean there. So let's see. For the web app, did you build it from the ground up, both front end? Yes, front end and back end. If you're talking about Insider Viz, all of that is completely custom. The front end is Next.js. All the graphics were made, they're custom SVGs animated using D3. And then the back end is a GoLang fiber app with MongoDB for the back end. So yes, all that stuff is custom written. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do initialize the app. So this is going to, so first we need to set up env. So this will load our environment variables. Now we need to go ahead and set up database. So then we're going to do error. So that's not right. We need to do database dot start MongoDB. Func. There we go. What is this upset about here? Oh, whoops. I forgot the thing here. And then this is going to be error. And then if we save, that should all be good. And then finally, assuming all of this goes good, if error not equal to nil, return error, or otherwise return nil. So there we go. Okay, so we have our initialize app function, we have our load env function, and we have this, don't need that anymore. So what we can now do within here is we can first, let's go ahead and init the app. So then we can do error is init app. Then if error not equal to nil, we'll just panic for now. No fancy error handling. And then now we need to defer, close the database. So then this is going to be defer close database.close MongoDB. And then, yeah, starting with vanilla JS and then sort of getting up into the other stuff, it's quite a process, but you'll learn a lot. I would highly recommend going into TypeScript if you're familiar with vanilla JS. It is absolutely worth using. I would never use vanilla JS at this point. Outside of like basic learning stuff, definitely go into TypeScript. I've never used Angular, actually. That's not something I've ever actually had to deal with, but you know, I know it's just very opinionated, which, you know, some people like, some people don't. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, but you know, is what it is. So let's go ahead and do, let's just add a sample document. So let's just switch this to a post request. So on this post request, we're just going to write a random, just write a title. Yeah, let's just write it to the database. So then let's just go ahead and say, yeah, generics are weird. I know they just added those to Go. I haven't actually had to work with them at all, but in TypeScript, I know that they really suck to work with. TypeScript generics are not fun. So what we're going to do is, one of the most annoying things about this is I think on paper this stuff is really great, and I think it is even great in practice, but some of this is just so verbose. It's kind of annoying having to do all of this. But, you know, there's not a huge amount you can do. So what I need to do is we're going to go ahead down into CRUD operations and then write operations. Like I said, this is sort of just, I'm trying to illustrate how this looks and feels when you're actually doing this in the real world, where you're just reading the docs. And this is how I actually build all of my apps. I don't typically end up writing or watching a huge amount of videos or tutorials. I kind of just go to the docs and read it and go from there. Because like right here, we can see, okay, so I need to get my collection pointer, which I made that function earlier right here for this, for that purpose. So this will be super easy to get. Then I just need to come up with some documents. In this case, I don't really know what we want to make the data structure yet. So I'm just going to make these just generic. And then the result is just going to be collection.insert many. Yeah, it is a green screen behind me. Is it bad? How's this look down here? Oh, that does look kind of bad, actually. It's like filtering. Oh, yeah, that's pretty poorly filtering, huh? Yeah, that's not great. Let me see. Sorry, let me test this in OBS to see if I can get this to look a little nicer. Again, growing pains, I apologize. This is the first time I've really done this. Where is it? Where are my filters? Right, here we go, filters. Chroma key, let's just do a little more here, close. That's still not ideal. I don't really know. Here, we could just switch to this, theoretically. That might just be better. We'll just do that for now, and then I'll revisit that later. But for now, we'll just stay here. Yeah. Why not use Streamlabs? Because I don't know what Streamlabs is. I'm super new to this, but I will definitely look into that. Maybe the circle with the filter. Well, what I could do to make this look nicer is just there we go. Yeah, here. That's cleaner. This is out of the way. This will be fine. Okay, so sorry about that. Okay. There we go. Cool. Bottom right, you think? That would be better? Move this down here. You move this up a little bit. That look good. That doesn't seem to be covering anything on the VS Code instance. Seems pretty good. Yeah, we're good. We're good. I'm just going to leave it here. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and actually just keep writing code, the whole reason we're here. So what I'm going to do is let's just go ahead and actually write something. So let's just do sample doc : equals bson.m. So bson.m is just going to be a map. So bson is the underlying sort of query language that MongoDB uses. And it's super, super useful to for, oh, my little logo's right over my face. This is a disaster. You know what? We're putting in the top right again. There we go. Okay. Sorry. So bson is the like underlying query language that you can use to read, write, make queries for MongoDB. It's the way the data comes in, way the data comes out. So the bson.m is just a map. There's arrays, dictionaries, tons of different ways of doing it. So in this case, I'm just doing bson.m. So I'm just gonna have a key of name mapping to sample to do. And what we're going to do here, so we have this sample doc, and then we're going to go ahead and what Copilot wants me to do is get this collection and then insert one. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do collection : equals, and then we're going to do database.getCollection to dos. So remember, we made this get collection function to make our lives easier, because instead of having to go through and manually go ahead and pick the same one every time, we can put single source of control or single source of truth on our database, and then the collection is just a string. So we've done this, so now we can get our database collection. Now that we've got this, all we need to do is just use it. So if you remember up here within the insert a document here, it's just collection.insert many, or let's do insert one. So insert a document right here. It's going to be insert one, context to do, I don't really care, and then the document. So we're going to get an error and a result out of this. So see you, Destiny. Thanks for stopping by. So what we will do is I'm going to go ahead and do ndoc, error, : equals collection.insert one, and then c.context. I don't want to use my fiber context. I'm just going to do context.todo. So we've done this, and then now we can go ahead and do, if error is not equal to nil, we can go ahead and return a new error. So, but here, this isn't an actual request. So, what's it called? So yeah, so we're going to be doing this within the request. So what I want to do is I want to do c.error. So we're going to do return c.error. error, I believe. Let me actually double check how this works. Error handling. So this right here, so we have the recover. We'll add that in a moment here. Custom error handler. Yes, there it is. So right here, the CTX is the fiber context. And what we can go ahead and do is we can set the status to be internal service error and then send down whatever that error is. So we're going to go ahead and do return c.set set status. Status. C.send status, and that's going to be 500. And then we're going to go ahead and do error, and that's going to be error. So with all of that done, we have this in here. C.status, I believe. Yeah, we want it to be status, sorry. So it's this, and then that's going to be fiber.status internal service error. So this is coming from the fiber package. So we do this. And then we can go ahead and do dot send string. No, I want to do send string. And then this will be error inserting to do. And we can just delete this and we're good. So this is what will be sent back if we have an error. And then now we can just send down info about the to do. And what we're going to send down is we're just going to send down this new document. There we go. Do you use fiber in your prod? Yes, I do. Is it the best for serving stuff? I think the question is, do you need HTTP 2? Personally, I don't, because it's just communicating from my custom front end to my custom back end. I like Fiber because it's super intuitive to write, because I come from Express and Next and all that stuff, so it's really easy, and it's stupidly fast. It's an insanely fast framework. If you need the HTTP2 framework and all that stuff, then yeah, use it, but like most people don't, so I wouldn't get too hung up on it or really worry about it. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective on that, but yes, I do use it in production. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and run this, and then everything should be good in here. Let's see. So we've got that, and then now let's go back over here. So remember, we mapped this to a post request. So if I just make a post request to this, it should send me down inserted ID is this. If we go back to our Railway instance over here, we're gonna see we have a new collection of to-dos, and we have this new document right here with name sample to-do, and this ID matches this inserted ID. So everything works. Great. The context.todo, that is the context of the MongoDB server. I would not worry about that too much right now. They have a full fundamental guide in here, so you can talk about the context package and all this stuff. For the sake of this, don't worry too much about it. Yeah, not a huge issue. Ike, thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you like them. Give it a try for sure if you want to. And yeah, I will see you later. So, yeah, we've got that. So with this post request done, we are ready to sort of get going on the main app. So now that this is all working, let's sort of, well, first of all, let's commit this. Let's do git-a, git commit m basic app works push. So this is the very first thing done. We're going to do way more, don't worry. But now that this is working, let's go ahead and figure out, what we're actually going to be doing. So, what's up, Sass? We are going to be, well, yeah, I need to figure out what we're actually going to be making here. So, this is from the last video, but let's see, what do we want to make here? So this is going to be the demo API. Let's make this extra large. And what do we actually want to make here? Let's do the data model in here. So the first thing we're going to have over here is we're going to have a collection of some sort. So let's call this collection, maybe, trying to think what the best thing to make here is. So let's make this transparent. So let's just do, I think libraries are a pretty good example of this. They're not perfect, and honestly, this would probably be better for relational, but to be honest, this will probably work. So this will be a good example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do library. Gin is good. Gin does not have, like, I don't know. I mean, Fiber is faster than Gin for sure. I used to use Gin, but I find Fiber much more intuitive and it just works better for me. Obviously, if you need like all the HTTP framework specification stuff, use it. But for me, I don't really need it. But But anyways, so within this library, we're going to need to, I'll knock this down. Let's actually write out the schema. So let's just do a name. So it's going to be a string. Then so the library needs a name. Then it's going to need an ID, which is also a string. I mean, it's not a string, but we can count it as one. Then, so we have a name, string. Then let's go ahead and do address, string. And then let's do the big one is going to be books. And then that is going to be nested array. So this is where things get interesting. And the reason why this is not the most efficient thing in the world, but I want to show something more than just a trivial example, because we could just do like a to-do app and that would take 10 minutes and you wouldn't actually learn anything because it's not, you know, the most useful thing in the world. Like, yeah, it's easy to get stuff reading and writing out of a database, but actually doing something with it is way more use, or actually adding that extra layer of complexity in nesting stuff or adding some concurrency or adding more complicated stuff in there. That's where the real world sort of comes in. So I want to really show that. But yes, this will definitely be a video later. Don't worry about that. Small, medium, let's go down to this. Let's go ahead and say the name of the book. That'll be a string. And let's just do an author string. So we have the name and then the author and then the ISBN, and that'll be a string. All right, so that's going to be good enough. This is not the craziest thing in the world, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating libraries, and then we're going to be creating books within these libraries. So we're not going to be doing authentication, not going to be doing anything crazy like that, but this will allow you to create, read, write, and update to all this stuff. And then as you want to, you can add more stuff to it if you see fit. This will give you a good baseline. So let's go ahead and just start with, let's write out the structs that we need for this. So I like to put these into a models folder. So I'm going to go ahead and make a models folder, and we're going to call this library.go. And then there's going to be package models. So this is sort of like MongoDB doesn't have a schema to it. It's not like a SQL database where you have to go in and actually, you know, define, okay, these are my tables, these are my relations, this is that. You just kind of do it however you want. You can put whatever you want, wherever you want. Within this guy right here, I could add another document with a completely different schema to this, and it won't yell at me. It won't do anything about it. So you got to be careful with that. And I think the easiest way to be careful with that is by creating some custom structs. So I'm going to go ahead and do type. Yeah, let's just do type library. Library is a struct. So then within here, we're going to have a couple of different things. So if you remember back within our data model here, we have a ID. So ID string JSON is ID, then BSON is underscore ID. So what is this fancy stuff up here? So in GoLang, what's really nice about these structs is we get these serializable fields. So these structs can be serialized, which just means converted to other data structures super easily. And in this case, we're defining how this can be converted to JSON and how this can be converted to BSON. BSON, like I said earlier, is the MongoDB sort of structure language, and then JSON is just what you would expect, and that's what's going to be coming out right here. So this right here is we're defining how this should be changed. So when we work with it in Go, this field will be an ID, but when we work with it in the like real world or whatever, or when we work with it in the database, it'll be this underscore ID. When we send it to the end user, it'll be lowercase ID. When we work with it on the server, it'll be ID, and that'll make sense in a moment here. So we're going to do name string. Once again, we'll have name and name. And the reason why I'm capitalizing this here is because I need to make this a public field on the library. We can't let this be, if I made it lowercase, it would become a private field. And if it's a private field, then it's not going to actually, you know, it's not going to work because we won't be able to actually access it. Like if I do name here, it's going to yell at me and it's going to say, hey, it's not exported. So you can't use it outside of internally in the struct. So now that we've got that, we need the address. So let's do address is just going to be string. And then now we need to go ahead and let's make another model in here. And that model is going to be a book.go. Package models. So let's go ahead and do type book struct. So we're going to make another struct. And just like before, we have our ID, we have our title. I'm going to save it as title. It doesn't really matter. Author. And then let's just do ISBN. Perfect. Copilot knows what I want to do. So we have this book right here. And let's go ahead and actually nest that guy. So let's go ahead and do our books is going to be an array of books. So we have on JSON, it's going to be books, as you would expect. So this is our model. So this is the underlying data that we're going to be dealing with. So we're going to go ahead and let's actually do something with this. So within our main.go, we have all this stuff, but this is kind of disorganized and this is going to get really hard to scale. I don't really like this. This is not that nice to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new package and we're going to call this the router. So what is the point of this router? Well, the point of this router is we're going to group all of our routes within here. So if we go back to our fiber documentation and we go into routing, there's some really nice stuff in here. So the first thing it'll show you is it's got like, okay, so this is just how to get requests or post requests or whatever. And this is exactly how you would expect it to work. This is exactly how it works in Express or most HTTP frameworks that you would be used to. But if we go down here to grouping, what you're going to see is we can create these nice little groups and then we can go ahead and actually use those. So here I have it as router, and now that I'm thinking about this again, I kind of want to change this. I want to make this handlers. So let's go ahead and make these our handlers, and then let's go ahead and make this, let's make a thing in our root here. Let's do router.go. So we have our main.go and we have our router.go. And then, yeah, the types aligning in a struct is my favorite thing. Yeah, the structs are great. I'm a huge fan of them. They are, they're really slept on, I think, for sure. Let's see. So we need to go ahead. Okay. So now that we've got, so what we're going to need to set up here is this sort of grouping thing. So this is going to be package main, and then let's make this a private function. So this is going to need to be grouping here. So what we can do here is if you look right here, what it's doing is it's creating our new fiber app. So you remember back over here within our main.go, we have our app := fiber.new. What we're going to do is we're going to sort of change this, and we are going to do, let's go ahead and make this func generate app. So let's go ahead and then do, yeah, so we'll just generate an app. And then let's check what the type of this is, because this is what I want to return. It's going to be just be a fiber.app. Beautiful. Fiber.app. Okay. So we're going to be returning a fiber.app, and then it's going to give me the wrong import up here because it's fun like that. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to grab the right one because we want fiber v2, and for some reason it was putting in fiber v1, so we need to go ahead and import the right one. So we want to import the right kind of fiber. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to create our what's it called? Let's just go ahead and create our groups. So let's make a library group. So what's it say here? So we are going to do app : fiber.new. So we're going to create our new fiber app, and then we are going to create the library group and roots. So the first thing I want to add here is I'm just going to create a health check. So create health check. So what's nice about a health check is when you actually put this stuff in production, it'll make it really easy if you add a little thing in there where you can have it just ping. So a lot of these production services like Railway will have a thing where you can just go in and ping to some endpoint that you define. If it gets a good status return, then you're good. And you don't have to worry about, then you know it's live and healthy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just that here. So we're just going to do app.get, and then we're just going to do /health. Yeah. Yeah. He's right about this one. Copilot's got this. So then we'll just go ahead and do send string. Okay, beautiful. So this is our health check. And then now let's go ahead and create our library of our library roots. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new group. So we're going to call this lib group : app.group library. We don't have any middlewares for this. So then we need to go ahead and add the, yeah, actually we already have that. So we need to add our actual roots in here, but we don't have anything to add yet. So let's make a basic handler. So let's just do first handler.go. I like to snake case everything in here. You can camel case if you like, but for me in Go, for some reason, it just feels good to snake case everything. So I'm going to do func test handler. Oh yeah, we're going to deploy this at the end for sure. Why not? So we have our test handler in here, and we need to do define our handlers in here. And to actually define a handler, we double check. Yeah, so these handler functions, what you can do is we just make these new functions, and then they're going to just take in a C, which is the fiber context, and they're going to return an error. So this test handler is going to take in C, this right here. Beautiful, it's got it right. This is not right. I think it's just /v2 is all we need to add, right? Yep, beautiful. Okay. So this first handler has been created. And then we can go into our library group. We're going to do libgroup.get root. And then I don't want to pass in that one. I want to pass in handlers.testHandler. And now that we have all these, we can just return our app. So this will generate our app right here. And it's going to yell like, hey, you haven't used me, but we're about to use it. So we go back here. We have all this stuff in here. I'm going to comment this out because we don't need it right now. We might bring it back. But instead, I'm going to say app equals, what do I call this? Generate app. And then app.listen 3000. There we go. Context is going to be something you're going to see a lot. That is something that is part of MongoDB. The context in this, the sense of MongoDB is not something you need to worry about. If you want to read more about it, it's on their documentation, but it's more of an advanced thing. It's not a huge issue. And within Fiber, though, it is more important. And what that context is that's going to give you the information about the request that you're dealing with. So when we go in and start dealing with parameters and stuff, you'll see that being used. So now we've got ahead and we can generate our app and we can run it. And one of the big issues with Go that you'll see is like, you can see how like I could do this in 800,000 different ways and still technically not be wrong. Like it really doesn't matter how you do this. It's up to you. Like I could move my generate app within to a init app and maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't really know. But, you know, you get the idea that there's a lot of stuff being done in a lot of different places. So you kind of just have to pick, and it's not opinionated. It's not like Nest.js or something where it's super opinionated. There's one way to do everything. So with all that said, we're going to go ahead and we have our app here. Let's go ahead and test this. Let's do go run main.go. So undefined generate app. What are you? Oh, it's because I need to run main.go and router.go. I need to run both scripts. So we run that, and then we do localhost 3000 / let's do health first. So make sure instead of post, it's a get request. So we send this get request here, and then instead of health, let's do library, and we get hello world. Perfect. So everything is working as expected. We're all good here. We have our headers, query. No issues whatsoever, and now we can go ahead and start actually building out our app. So I'll call this good. We've got all of this in here. I'm going to delete this. Again, you can reorganize this kind of however you want. In my case, this works. Actually, one last thing before we get started. Let's get the port from the env. So we're going to do port : equals os.get env port. And then we're going to listen to the port. And the reason for this is because we're going to need to read the port. We're going to need to read the port from our hosting solution later on. So, okay, so we're going to listen to the port here, os.get env port. But that also leads me to wanting to make one more change to our init, our load env file. Is I like to do a little thing where I read, I set like a Go environment variable because I want to load from a .env in dev, but I don't want to load this in production. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do go env : equals os.get get env, and then go environment. So this is sort of like a node environment, but it's custom because it's not being used everywhere. So right here, this is either going to be a string. So I'm going to say if go environment is equal to this, then, whoops, actually I can just delete all of this and then delete that. So if there's no go environment, then that means that this is in local. So we're just going to go ahead and load from this .env. But if it's not there, then that means that we're in production and we can just load from the normal environment variables in our system. So that final thing is in there. Let's see. And port is going to be either os.get env port. Yeah, actually I need to add this to my environment variables. Let me bring this down because I have a sensitive one in there, which is my MongoDB thing. So I'll add port equals 3000. Actually, I'm going to make this 4000 this time around. This will now be on 4000. Close this. Bring this back up here. And we're good. Okay. So with that, if we close this and then we do go run main.go, router.go, we'll be up on 4000. If I change this again to 4000, hello world, no issues whatsoever. And now we are ready to get to work. So let's go ahead and do git add -a and commit -m created models and project structure. So I like to just commit a lot, make sure it's easy to keep track of the changes I'm making. The reason why I need to run this router as well is because if I just did go run main.go, it's going to yell at me and it's going to say that generate app is undefined. You have to run all of the different, you have to run, you have to tell Go to run all of the different files. So I have to do go run everything. So instead of just main.go, we have to do all of these. So go run main.go and then router.go. Perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into these actual handlers. So let's do for this first one. So we need to do CRUD basically. So let's start with like writing a new library. So let's do handler. So this will be package handlers. So then let's just do, let's make a function here. So this will be func create library. So we're going to create a library right here. So we have all this stuff. So now we need to actually create one of these. So how are we going to do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is this is going to be wrapped in a post request. So we know that from the end user, we need to be getting some data, but we need to get data out of the request body. Can we load initialize generate app in the main from router when main is run? Yes, I think if you're asking what I think you are, then yeah, this is just being loaded. These two are like loading together when we do go run main.go and router.go. But yes, I think so. Actually, you know, honestly, with all this said, I think it's probably just going to be easier to just bring this in here. I'm just going to do that. You do use generate app, and then I'm going to delete this file. And then there we go. Okay. So I'm going to refactor all that in. It'll be easier to just have one single source. This isn't too long of a file, and I can just put all of our roots in here. And if you wanted to, you could break this up into multiple, but it's not necessary. So, all right, so we need to create this library. So I need to be reading data from a post request. How do I do that? So what I'm going to do, honestly, is just go in here, and let's just take a look at routing templates. Where is it for sure? Yeah. So here we need to get the actual request body. So return the request body, that'll return the raw one, but here we need to actually like parse it into something. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to use this, we're going to make a DTO struct. So what a DTO is, a data transmission object. It's a way of us defining, okay, here's what it should look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yeah, so let's go ahead and do, let's make a struct for our library DTO. So let's do type library DTO. This is private. We only need this here. Struct. And then what are we going to need to read in from the end user? So if we remember in our model itself, within the library model, we have an ID, name, and address, and the books, we're just going to initialize the books array to empty. So here we're just going to be creating these. So we need all of this, but we actually don't even need the ID, so we just need a name and address. So all I need to get from the end user is a name, and then we're going to want the JSON string of name and then address, which is going to be a JSON string of address. And to make my life even easier, I'm going to actually add the BSON to these as well, because we can just reuse these and we don't have to convert them over. So we have name and address. Everything should be good here. Now we can read our data from the, now we can just get our data from the body. So what we can do is I need to first create this new object. So as they do in here, we're going to do p is new person, and that's just going to initialize a new empty object. So I'm going to do, in this case, I'm just going to do n library colon equals new library DTO. I spelled that long. There we go. So we create a new DTO object, and then what we're going to go ahead and do is just parse the body. And then if this is not doesn't work, if we get an error here, we want to actually send back an error. So in this case, we just send down the error. That's fine. Then once we've done this, let's just go ahead and just show this. So we'll just do fnt.println. So let's just print out the new library and see what we've got going here. Do GoRun main.go. First thing we're going to do is we are going to, whoops, I forgot one thing. We need to actually hook this up. So we have this handler function, but we need to actually use this somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down into my main.go, and then we're going to go in here. So we have our health check, then we have this test handler, but now we need to do lib group.post, and then that's going to be our create library root. So now if we do go run main.go, go ahead and do this. We can, let's go ahead and post to this. So when we post to this, it's going to say create library, and it's going to be an empty object. So that is going to, let's see, name, address, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so we're going to get empty because we didn't actually pass anything in. But if we go ahead and do name right here, we'll do address is this, and then let's just say 123 street lane. We send this down. We're going to get all of this into our object, and we're good. So now that this is down into our object, we can actually do something with it. So now that we're reading this data in from the end user, and we do more validation on this. Like if we wanted to make sure that those were not empty strings, we could do that for sure. But in this case, for minimum viable product, I'm not going to worry about that. So now that we have this new object, we need to create something. So remember earlier, let's go ahead into our write operations, insert a document, and basically just do the exact same thing we did before. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to get a reference to our database collection. So I'll do library collection colon equals database.getCollection. Yeah, libraries is fine for that name. Remember, you got to make sure that you're using the same name every time you reference these. So putting like an enum on these wouldn't be bad. In my case, just making it libraries works. So I'm just going to say database.getCollection libraries. And then now I'm going to go ahead and do, let's actually add this in. So let's go ahead and do result error is collection.insert one. So I'm going to just do ndoc, comma error colon equals library corrects collection.insert one. Again, I don't want to pass this context in. I want to do c context context.to do. There we go. Again, don't worry about context. It's not a big deal for this. Then again, if error not equal to nil, return error, the bane of Go's existence, these 3 lines right here. Then finally, assuming all of this works, we're good. And at this point, we can do send or c.json. I prefer sending down JSON. And then we can do c.map. What is it? Fiber.map. So fiber.map, and then let's just do ID. Is this the correct? Sorry, I need to double check. Whoops, no, that's not what I want. This right here, let's double check the map. Fiber.map. Ah, I have it wrong. We don't need parentheses here. So we have an extra parenthesis, so there we go. So now we're going to go ahead and do just c.json. We're going to send down the ID of our inserted ID. Now we're going to go ahead and go run main.go, restart this up. Now if we go back to this right here, we're posting some content and an address. Now we have this ID right here. Beautiful. And if we go back to our, if we go back up here to our Railway instance, our libraries collection has been created. Our document is in here, and what we just put in is now in. So we are now able to write to our database. Let's actually do some, let's do some reading from this. So we have our create library function. So this is going to be, so this will be our post. So now let's make a get. So let's make a get request. This will be func get library varies. So let's just get all of these. So let's do c fiber.ctx error. So now that we've got this in here, let's go ahead and just fetch everything. So what's really nice about using Go with Copilot is Copilot's smart. And it's going to figure out basically what we need to do for us. Like, I'll just keep what it took and then just kind of talk about it and see if this actually makes sense. But in this case, it actually does. So what's really nice is what it's going to do is it's going to first get, okay, so it's going to get a library collection. So it's going to fetch this. So get the collection as we would. It's going to find. So if we go back to the docs over here, find will just get us multiple documents that match some parameters. In this case, we don't have any filters on them whatsoever. So we're just passing in nil for our arguments. Then we're gonna get a cursor out of this, which is a little different than you'd expect. I'll talk about that in a moment. Error as the 3 curse lines. Then we're creating our libraries. So this is actually where I disagree with it. So here it's saying it wants us to do a library DTO, and that's not inherently wrong, but I want to get everything on it. I want to get the ID as well. So this is actually instead going to be models.library. So we're going to be inserting models.library. So right here, we're going to do libraries as model.libraries. And then this is going to go ahead and when we do cursor.all, this is going to take the raw data from the cursor and it's going to put us into the libraries thing. Is there something like NodeMon? Not that I know of. I saw someone talking about that earlier, but I don't know of any off the top of my head. So I kind of just do it this way. It's not efficient, but I should find something like that. But regardless, now that we've done this, we can remember earlier I talked about the serialization stuff. We're going to serialize this into this libraries object as an array of these models. And then we're going to go ahead and send these down to the end user. So let's go ahead and do go run main.go. And now if we switch this over to a get request and we hit send, this is going to say hello world because I haven't actually switched it over. Forgot to do that. So instead of test handler, we want to do get libraries. So perfect. And then I'm just going to delete this first handler. We don't need this anymore. That is gone. So now that we have that going, we're going to do go run main.go. Beautiful. We can go ahead and do this now. Let's get document is going to be get nil. So it's going to say document is nil. I think we just, instead of nil, we want to pass in bson.m right here. I think we want to pass that in instead. I think that's the issue. Yes, beautiful. So there is just passing in like nil as our argument. We don't want nil to be our argument. We want to just say that, hey, there's no filters on here. So we're just going to pass in bson.m and then get all this stuff out. So now that we've done this, we have ended up with 2 different methods where we can create these new libraries. So if I just made this second library, and then I'll just make this 3, 2, 1. And then, yep, so right here, we have all of this. We can post this, run that again, and then get, send, and then there it is. Now we have this null right here, and this is something we need to talk about. I'll do that in a second. Yeah, absolutely. Glad this works well for you. Definitely do some more live stuff like this. I want to do more complicated stuff as we go on. This is sort of like introductory type stuff, and this is pretty this is more basic, but as time goes on, I want to do more and more complex stuff and add some more complicated features. Like I'd love to show off like concurrency and some cool stuff like that. So definitely in the future we'll be doing that. But regardless, what I was talking about earlier is these books are null, and this isn't what we want. I want this to be an empty array, not a null. When you're passing around nulls, things get dangerous, and this is where we get into the sort of like, is MongoDB stupid or not? Because you can just kind of do this, because if you look at our libraries collection, these just have, it's just empty. So there's nothing for our actual books in here, versus if this was in a SQL like table thing where this was a relation from 1 to 1, it wouldn't be null. And this is definitely a case where I would think in the real world you'd probably use SQL for this data model. I think that this would be much better represented in a primary key foreign key relationship. But for the sake of this, I'm just using MongoDB, so we're going to make it work. But with that said, this data is not good, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this and we're going to fix it. Thank you. I'm was very happy to hit 1,000. That was pretty cool. Definitely gonna be working on a lot more stuff. But yeah, so we have this books and these are empty arrays. So what we need to do is I need to go fix this within our post request. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into this library DTO, and we just need to add an empty array in here. So we're just gonna make this like let's just do empty, and then we're just gonna make this string, a slice of strings, and then we're just gonna make this whoops, it's the other way around in Go. I forget that. I write mostly TypeScript these days, so I forget that sometimes. But if we switch these over, let's just make these our books. JSON, this is really not ideal, but I'm just going in here and doing this for the sake of making sure that we don't end up with nulls in there. So this should, if I'm correct, if I'm right, this should fix it. So now if we do this again and we create this and we make a post request here, we send that over. Then now if we go back over to our collection here, we look at this, books is going to be null. Dang. We need to actually initialize the array. Shoot. This really is not a good use case for MongoDB. This nonsense like this is just not ideal, but you sort of get the idea. And I mean, I think that this is actually a valuable like learning experience type thing where it's like, this is like in real time. This is the problem with it. Like it's great. It works super well, but just silly stuff like this and having like inconsistent documents, it's not great. This sort of data model is definitely going to be better for, a SQL type thing, but we're still using MongoDB. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this doc, and then if the error is not equal to nil, let's go ahead and make this enddoc thing an actual thing. So we're going to do enddoc.empty. Whoops. We need to go ahead and get this out of the body. So endLibrary.empty is going to be, yeah, so there we go. So we need to new make, yeah, string 0. Hey, why didn't you put the thing in there? Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to allocate a string array of length 0. So this is just going to generate that out for us. Not the most, again, this is really kind of MongoDB being questionable. And maybe it's just me being questionable. Maybe there's a way around this, and maybe I just don't know. And if there is, please let me know. I would love to be wrong here. But I believe that this is just MongoDB kind of being silly. But if we post this in again, and then we run a GET request, this should finally fix it. There we go. So now we have this empty array. Again, was that elegant? No. But now our data model is set up nicely, and we have everything right here, and we're good. So now that all this stuff works, let's go ahead and actually, let's go ahead and work on the, book side of this. So what I'm going to do is I have all of this in here. Our books are null. When you get into nested relations, it really gets kind of gross kind of fast. So like it's good if you have these more shallow relations, but here, so this document needs to go. So we're going to delete this, but let's start handling the books. So let's just do books, book.go, package handlers. So within our handlers, we're going to go ahead and do func. Let's just do add create book. So this is going to be a little more complicated than the last one was. So remember, we're dealing with these nested relations, and the way we're going to force this to work is you're not going to be able to work with books by themselves. You're going to have to work with them in relation to their libraries to deal with this sort of nested structure. Again, real world, but for the sake of this example, go with me here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set up, what's it called? Let's go ahead and do, we have to create it, but we have to create it based on its library. So to create this, we need to pass in the name, author, ISBN, and the ID of its parent library so we know which one to insert it into. So let's go ahead and do that. So first thing we're going to do, like before, is we're going to do type new book DTO struct. So let's go ahead and set, so what do we want this to have? So we want this to have a name. So let's actually change this to title, remember. So title, author, and ISBN. Title, author and ISBN. There we go. And the last thing we need to add in here is going to be the library ID. So let's go ahead and do that. Whoops, need to make sure that's capitalized so we actually get it. Okay, so we have this library ID. Now we can actually get this out. So let's go ahead here back into this. So I'm going to just copy the same code. So I'm going to do grab this right here. This is the same stuff we need. Grab that and then go ahead into this. So instead of being this is going to be a new book DTO. Books is a nested root of library, right? Well, it depends on how we want to do it. I haven't actually created these yet, but I'm thinking they're going to get their own little group. I'll show you that in a moment once we finish this create book up, but it's sort of up to you how you want to structure this. But for this case, basically what we're doing is certainly in the data model, the books are nested underneath the library. I'm very quickly realizing that this was a poorly thought out example of a data model. This is not a good use case for MongoDB is kind of the problem. If this were SQL, this would be beautiful, but this isn't great for MongoDB. But anyways, so let's just do create data. It's just going to be this. So we're fetching this from, we're getting this struct out, title, author, ISBN, library ID, all good. Now what we need to go ahead and do is parse this. So create data, and let's just go ahead and do fmt.println, the create data. And now let's go ahead back to our main.go and let's actually add this in. So let's go ahead and do, so under library, since we are doing these nested in our data model, we should nest these in our roots. So let's go ahead and do these within our library group. And let's do lib group dot post and then /book. That's going to be handlers dot, what was it? Yeah, create book. What I called it, right? Yep. Okay, cool. So now we have this. I'm going to do this, and now we can go back up here, /book, and post, and then we'll send this. We're not going to have everything we need because it's completely different fields. So instead of this, can I comment that out? Yep, I can. Beautiful. Is it going to let me leave comments in here? Please let me leave comments in here. So I'd love to not have to like re-add this data in. Yeah, okay, it's not gonna let me leave them. Okay, that's unfortunate, but we already have one in there, so it's fine. So what we can do is if we go back over to here, we can see our DTO. So again, we need to put in a title. So we're gonna start with a title, and then this is a book, and then what is going to be our next up we have, so we need title, author, ISBN. Author is going to be me, and then the ISBN is going to be something, I don't really know, and then the key thing is going to be, whoops, I forgot to wrap these in quotes because these are key value pairs in JSON. Do that, and then we'll do this, and then down here we will do this right here. Finally, we need to put in our library ID, but remember, this needs to point to something else. So this is where we're doing like, this is like pseudo relational stuff and goofy document world. It's not ideal again, but it'll work. So within our libraries here, let's just grab this ID up here. So I'm going to grab this ID and then we're going to paste that in here. And then now that we've got all of this done, we're going to go ahead and post to library/book. You can go ahead and do that and send. And now we're going to get all of the information we need in here. And now we can go ahead and write the actual logic for creating this. So what we need to do is we need to do a write operation to a nested document. So what we're going to do is we're going to update arrays in a document. This is going to get a little interesting, and this is going to show you a more complicated thing in here. Is it better to get the library ID from the root param? You could actually structure it that way. That might actually be a cleaner way of structuring it because here I'm passing it in as a body because semantically within HTTP, you want to pass data via body for post requests. But if I wanted to post to, actually, this should be a put request and it should be, yes, very good point. So put requests are idempotent, which means that you can do them over and over and over again and it'll get the same result. And we should be able to get the, or wait, no, it is creating new data. No, yeah, I'll leave it this way. Yeah, theoretically you definitely could do it as a param, but I think in this case I'm going to do it like this. So I think instead what we're going to go ahead and we're going to do is we're going to do for this library ID, we are going to, let's take this library ID and let's use it to actually get the guy. So, right here, so sample data, beautiful. So, to update, so what we want to do is we want to find one and update. So what's kind of crazy about this is we have to then use these like special keywords to update our array. So here it's saying like increment the size of the array. So we're going to decrement the first array value by 2. Let's see. Insert. Let me double check. Find one and update. Set array filters. Okay, so we're updating arrays, inserting a document. Insert into nested array MongoDB GoLang. I always forget how to do this. Yes, here it is. It's the push. It's always these like dollar symbol things, like these dollar push, dollar add, dollar whatever. These are the sort of keys in these like fancy MongoDB queries. So yeah, right here, this is it. So what we want to do is we want to update this document here. So this is actually going to be an update. So first thing we need to do is we need to set up our query. So let's do, let's get the collection reference. So that's going to be the collection. Let's do this call colon equals database.getCollection. And then this is actually going to be pointing to libraries. So remember, we're doing this as a separate collection. Now we need to go ahead and get the filter. So what we are going to do here is remember BSON is the update. BSON is the sort of like update language or the query language. So here Copilot wants me to do fiber.map. I want to do bson.map. So I'm going to do filter colon equals bson.m. And then instead we're going to pass in ID is going to be the create data.library ID. Planning on learning Go for a few weeks. Would you recommend doing Advent of Code to learn Go? Yeah, it's not, that's definitely not a bad idea of a way to start it. It sort of just depends on what you want to use it for, to be honest. I think for like those Advent of Code type things, it's great if you do it in like the language you're good at and you like. But a lot of the Go programming you're going to be doing is not like Advent of Code is like LeetCode code type stuff. And I think there's a huge difference between like LeetCode problems and these kinds of problems. I'm not doing data structure stuff right now. I'm not caring about runtime. I'm not doing fancy stuff like that. I'm just reading MongoDB documentation and reading and writing out of a database. So this is much more conceptual and much less it's more like it's less academic than those are. It's a great way to get familiar with the language and its patterns and its syntax, but as far as like actually building stuff, I think you're still better off probably just building regular projects. Like building APIs will make your life easier. But anyways, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get the filter here. So our filter is gonna be on ID. So we're gonna do create data.library ID. So that is going to pick which document we're gonna be updating, and then we're gonna do let's see. So our filter is gonna be that, and then right in here we need to actually set up like what we're going to be updating. So let's go ahead and do update payload colon equals bson.m. There we go. This looks good. So we have this. So create data. This is mostly right, but we're going to have this extra stuff in here. So what instead we want to do is we want to actually create a new book off of this because we don't want to throw this library ID in there. So let's go ahead and do n book data is going to be colon equals, that's going to be models dot book, and then within here we're going to pass in the titles, the create data, the author is create data dot author, and the ISBN is coming from there as well. So that should all work nicely. Oh, you need a comma after you. And then now finally for our books. So we're pushing to our books array. Remember up here we see like push, playlist, music. We're going to just do the end book data. So finally we have all this stuff together. We're going to actually update the library, and Copilot should just be able to generate this one for us. Yeah, I got that. So all we're doing is we don't really have any context in there right now. So we're just going to pass in our filter. So this will pick which document we're updating, then our update payload. And this is just going to be like what we're actually doing to update it. So what we're doing is we're pushing to the array. So finally we'll do if error not equal to nil, do the thing. There you go. That's not allowed in Go. Why are you saying that, Copilot? There you go. Delete the create data, and now let's go ahead and do return c dot send string. Just send out a string. Book created successfully. Is leak code enough to get a job? How do I answer this in a decent way? So I can't tell you about every single circumstance. I don't know what your circumstance is. I don't know what position you're trying to get. I got my position without leak code. I got my position. I'm 20 years old. I'm supposed to be in my second semester of my junior year, but I'm not actually doing that. I'm working full time because I was able to get a full staff backend position last semester by just having insider viz. So, the way I got my job is by actually having a project. So it wasn't like leak code whiteboarding stuff. It wasn't all of that. It was, I built insider viz from the ground up. I had a full production complex user management system, Stripe integration, all of this stuff. And when we got to the interview, I just sat down with the CTO and we just went through insider viz, and he was super, super impressed, and it landed me a nearly 6-figure job right here and now. So now I'm just doing this and working full time. That's what ended up getting me my job, was a project that I did. And I think, especially in the web development world, you're going to have a real edge over people if you have real projects. Most people can do leak code type stuff, especially like college graduate types. They're going to be really good at leak code. I mean, I got good at that kind of thing. I had algorithms classes. I was good at those. I think they're fun, but I think the biggest thing you can do to get a job is do actual projects, just actually make stuff, and it will really impress them because most people don't have that. It's a huge edge if you can do real stuff. So now I just went ahead and I created that book. And if we go back here, we look at our libraries instance, libraries here. It does not seem to have really done anything, so that's interesting. Let's go back and take a look at this. So do I reset this? Go run main.go. I think that's a whole nother thing I want to make like a video and talk about later, is going to be what got me my job and what I would recommend for you if you're trying to get a job in software. And it's just do projects is the honest answer. I think it'll give you a huge edge over everyone. Very, very few people actually like will do production level stuff. And if you can have that, especially as like a junior, especially if you're like younger, that's so good. It's such a weapon that most people don't have. Books. Push. Push, but it doesn't seem to be actually doing it. Well, it seems like the best thing to do is to leak some, let's leak some insider viz source code, shall we? So I don't think I have anything super secret in here. I hope not. But this right here, this is the actual API that serves to end users. But then here we can go ahead and do update stock data. This is a place where I actually use nested values in the real world. So this is what real world Go code looks like. It's kind of gross. It's a lot. I mean, this is an especially gross use case because there's a big, massive if statement here based on different like edge cases and scenarios because stocks decide to split awkwardly and at weird times, and we have to catch that and do a bunch of math on it, and it really, really sucks. But, you know, that's what we have to do. But in here, the key I'm looking for is going to be how I actually update this stuff down here. So we update one. So then we set. Oh, so I'm setting it actually. No, I don't think I want to set it. Filter. So let's double check. So the filter should be correct. Filter is going to be. Switch this to a D maybe. This is an array. D key. How did we start getting clients for Insider Viz? Well, we kind of just got lucky and had a couple people like talk about us on Twitter. We had some big accounts talk about like stock stuff and they used us as a reference. So we got a ton of users off of that. Right now we're sitting at a pretty healthy number of users. We're doing pretty well. But figuring out how to get clients and get people on your site was one of the biggest things that we just did not know how to do. And I still don't know very well. If I could tell you how to just get people on your site, I would be a very, very wealthy man, but I don't know exactly how to do it. I don't know marketing. I don't know that kind of stuff. I'm just a programmer and we're trying to figure out that kind of stuff right now. So that's sort of where we are is, we've just kind of gotten lucky with getting like certain batches of users in. I mean, this, like, the stuff I'm doing here sort of, like, gets users in, but, I mean, it's not the reason I'm doing this. I'm not doing this as a marketing ploy for Insider Viz. This would not be the way to do it. If I wanted to do that, I'd be running a finance channel right now. I'm just doing dev stuff because I like talking about it, and it's what I know super well, so it's really easy to talk about. Except for when I'm trying to push to an array, which clearly I'm a moron and I just can't. Push books. So we want to push 2 books. We want to run update 1. Update 1 res. So then res should be update result. And then we should be able to just make sure everything's coming out. fmt.println res.upserted_id. Any plan of using gRPC in the future? That's something that I was actually going to be using in Insider Viz for a while, but we've sort of made some calls and I've kind of just gotten to the point where I don't know if I'm going to. gRPC is a super advanced, super specialized technology. It is like, it's really, really powerful and fast, but it's really, really hard to use. And you have to have a very good reason to use it. And we really just don't. Going through and rewriting and putting that into the Insider Viz and all that stuff would just take forever. And it would be an insane amount of work. It's just not worth it. The end user would never know that we're doing it. So I don't think there's a reason to. If I ever have a good reason to, if I need high performance microservice architecture, then yeah, I'll use it. But ideally, I'll be at a point where I will be able to hire someone to do the high performance microservice architecture building for me instead of having to do it myself. That's kind of the way I think about it there. I'm trying to be more of a generalist than a specialist. I used to over engineer everything all the time. I was really bad about that, and I'm still not amazing about it, but I've gotten better. Right. Insert. Push to a nested array. So we want to update, and then we want to push in. So it should literally just be, what I'm doing here. So it should just be our filter is this guy up here. And then our update payload should be this guy down here. Maybe this needs to be bson.d. That might be it. I don't know. I don't know if it's being weird about that or not, but I could definitely see it happening. So we'll add this comma here. Then we need to add one more comma. And then we can go ahead and quick fix, add field names, save, go run main.go, and library book, nil. Oh, I see. So it's not. Oh, they asked for leak code and system design. Well, then if they ask for it, then for sure. If you're in system design, then you are not in the stuff I'm doing right now. If you're just in like, you know, goofy front end, like if you're in like web development world, you don't need leak code to write to do apps. Like it doesn't do anything. In my like work, I'm writing very, very complicated, like very complicated high end front ends and back ends. I don't need leak code. I don't need to know how to use a hash table or whatever. I don't need these optimizations. But if you're in system design, then yeah, you do. The lower level you get, the more you need to know algorithms and data structures. So if they ask for it, then yes, definitely use it. And that will definitely help to get a job. It's really just what they're looking for. I mean, in the web dev world and the higher level you get, the more they just care about, can you make something of value for them? And the lower level you get, the more they care like, hey, do you actually know what you're doing? What is going on? Okay, for some reason, this might actually just be a weird thing with the way they're structuring this. This might not actually be an ID field. Because if I go back to get these ID, yes, it's regular ID. We have solved the mystery, I think. So that's interesting. So I guess for some reason that guy within Railway, it defaulted it to not being underscore ID, but just regular ID. So here, let's go ahead and do go run go, and then let's go ahead and within our book here, let's do regular ID, then go run main.go, and let's go ahead and run this again, post, book created successfully. I didn't update it this time, but what is going on here? Filter. A real-time auction backend with MongoDB. That is a great idea, actually. That is so much better than this idea that I was using here. Yeah, we could definitely do that at some point. I would love to do that. Yeah, this is like that would be like a great, that would be a pretty great example of what you could do with Go and MongoDB. That would be really great. I'll definitely look into doing that. Yes, it would definitely showcase MongoDB well. This little thing that I came up with here is a pretty terrible showcase of MongoDB, to be completely honest with you. Having these like nested relations here that I'm working with right now, it's really not great. It's really not what the language is best for. Oh god. Okay, so end book data. Great. So books, end book data. This should just be, we want to push to this. Let's try doing this. I don't even care what this is. We can just do bson.m and then test. I'm a test. I don't even care. You can get axed. I just want to get something being updated in here. Primitive.d. That should be by ID with create data.library ID. We should be right here. Will Rust jobs eradicate GoLang jobs? I would bet not. I think Rust is overhyped. I think it's really cool. I think that you could do some really cool stuff with it in the future, but like it takes way too long to learn, and it is a systems language. It's just people have found, and this is probably a controversial opinion, but People like they just made a somewhat usable systems language that doesn't suck to write, and then realize that it's so fast and safe and all this stuff, and they want to build everything with it. And yeah, I get that idea, but it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be, I don't think that it's practical, at least for a very long time. So I would say no. I would say that Go for sure has a bright future. I mean, it's being built and maintained by Google, so like I think it'll be okay. I think for sure it will be fine in the future. My lord. JSON.m, and then let's literally just update like the name to like why. Why are you being weird? I don't know why I'm having such a brain fart on this right now. Document must contain key beginning with update 1, filter, and update. Okay, so what we need to do here is we need to go ahead and we need to find this guy and then update it. Do I think that the the Go 1-letter variable convention is stupid? It depends. I've seen it be okay, but I've also seen it get really used and abused in bad ways. It can be kind of hard to read sometimes, to be completely honest, which is one of the biggest issues with it. I could definitely maybe talk about that in the future, but it's one of those things where like, when you're the one who wrote it, it's fine. But when you look at someone else's code, it gets really hard to look at. Like a lot of people would probably, instead of doing call, they would have just done C here. But I guess I do have C up here with fiber.context, so I am using a single letter variable, which, you know, is what it is. Name this. We are really insert, change the documents. This should be update. So update parameters. This should just be like with an example down here. We should be able to go ahead and do within our update. We want to set so our our filter. Let's go ahead and do that way. Do this. Then to get clients, try advertising. Some people just creating landing page, describe how they're going to fit. Yeah, that's definitely something we've thought about. I mean, we're working on some internal stuff to like actually make our stuff more attractive as a service. Because right now we're not really at a point where Google ads would not be profitable for us. I'll put it that way. We do not have enough stuff to sell internally, and our subscriptions are super, super cheap, which is fine. But it's not enough to make it worth, it's not enough to make it like worth actually advertising it on Google yet. So probably what we're going to do is we're going to just keep doing, like, we're doing some like social media stuff, and we've got some really cool updates coming out, which I think are going to be good for the site a lot. Be very good for the site. we have a lot of big updates coming out for the site, which I think will help it a lot. And then after that, we're just gonna kind of end up seeing what happens. It's I don't know. This is our first time really doing this, so a lot of just kind of need to see how it goes. But hopefully, with what I just did here, this has got to do it. I apologize. This is like really dumb. I don't know why this is being so freaking dumb. Why is this being so dumb? Dot modified count. Let's do that. Let's print out the modified count. That'll be a useful thing to see. How many are we modifying? 0. Well, that's just awesome. So our collection is libraries. Libraries has this guy in it. We're filtering on name is second library. Second library. What? How much data do we send to the client for a single chart in kilobytes? Too many. That's how many. To the point where Next yells at us. They say you're sending too much down and it's a performance hit. And I don't disagree with them, but I don't really know how you avoid it because we have to put so much data into theirs, especially if you look at like the 5-year time span one. There's so much that has to go down for that. So we're working on optimizing that, but yeah, I don't really know. So yeah, the answer is too much. At least like 150, 200 kilobytes, probably. Something absurd. Oh my god, what is going on? Get collection, libraries. So we're getting the libraries, and then the filter is... Am I even using filter? Yep. Yeah, that's definitely something we've thought about for like marketing stuff would be, I think really just social media marketing is the best way to do things these days. Again, if I should be running a stock market channel, but I just like doing this stuff more, even when I am just sitting here suffering and it just for some reason will not update for the life of me. I don't know what it's doing. Update one library. Update one. I don't know. Copilot. Is that right? Is that gonna magically fix it? I don't think it changes anything, but no, Insider Viz was built by me and my friends. We worked on it together. I guess they're technically my co-founders now, but I've known them since I was like 12. But no, we built it together. All of the backend work was me. I built the entire backend. I did all the authentication. Like everything server side was me, but a lot of the client side stuff, especially like the graphs and stuff, that was them. I did not do those, but all the server work was me, which is generally the stuff I talk about here. Yeah, for the 150 to 250 is not the worst thing in the world, but the big sort of issue with it is well, the reason why we get around that and why it's kind of okay is because we leverage SSR. So we static build like crazy in for Insider Viz. We static build like all of our pages so that they only need to refresh every like 5 minutes or so because we only get new data every 5 minutes because the SEC is delayed. So it makes our life kind of easy. Okay, well, I don't know what this is doing. This is being really weird. I will look at this off stream, but for some reason, this like creation thing over here is being super, super obnoxious. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm distracted or something, but I don't want to spend another, 45 minutes because I still have to I want to try and get all these examples done, and I still need to get to the gym after this, and I still need to eat dinner and then get some more work done. So I need to get this done. So that's not working. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this up with a delete method over here. And then with that done, actually, I think, wait, did I even do delete? So I'm just going to do a delete method over here. And then for once after this is done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually do the, I'm going to do the sort of stuff that we, those other two apps, because those will be quicker and easier. And I'll try and do some cool concurrency examples in those. I'll try and make those fancy. Even though it won't make any sense to make them fancy, we can make them fancy. Okay, so let me just make a note in here. This is being dumb. I think it's a me problem, but I ran out of time. Okay, so that is just going to get axed, but the delete is not going to get axed. Here we want to get the ID from the, what we can do, if we look at fiber here, we can get params. Yes, so we want to get a URL params here. So we're going to do, ID is c.params ID, and then we're going to just do, instead of deleting by this, we're going to delete by ID, and then we're going to do ID of ID. And then now we go ahead and say send string deleted successfully. And now if we go back to our main.go, we're going to go ahead and do, let's just add this because it's being dumb and I don't like it. And then lib group, and then we're going to do delete and then pass an ID and handlers.delete library, go run main.go. Now we go back over here. Let's get rid of this. Let's just get everything. Let's say, oh, the ID doesn't exist anymore. What is going on with you? Am I just an idiot? Oh no, because I have it. Oh no, in JSON it's that. In BSON it's this. Oh goodness. Oh goodness, oh goodness. And this is tragic. It appears it is a me being stupid problem. I'm not too certain, and I don't want to go back, but oh goodness. That's rough. This is going to be a rough one. Someone smarter than me is going to know exactly what I did wrong, and it's going to be, it's going to be rough. But what are you going to do? So now we send this again. Yeah, there we go. There's our ID. Let's grab this, copy. Sir, I'm trying to copy this. Copy, paste, get. We'll make this a delete request. Library delete, send. Library deleted successfully. Please tell me you actually deleted successfully. Get, well, why is this filter just not working? Is this something to do with the way they're doing the MongoDB up here on, it might be something really weird with how they're doing it up on Railway. I'm not entirely certain. This is really weird. The filters are not working the way they should. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Harksley, thank you for hanging out. Been great having you here. Yeah, catch up on the rest. And for sure, good luck learning all this stuff. Hopefully a lot of this was helpful. This whole, the update thing was kind of tragic, but a lot of this is valuable and good. There's just something weird about this is just not working how you would expect. So I'm going to shelve this, and then we're going to move on over to the actual, what's it called? I'm going to move over to the other two examples, which will be much quicker and simpler. So commit-m, it's going to be partly done having issues with the, we're having issues with the updates, and then we'll push this. If you want a full, I did a video on this back in November, actually, that basically implements a full REST API from scratch, and I talk about it in there. If you want a better example of that, go check that out. That has a much better listing of all this. But with that one done, let's go ahead and do the next one. So the next one here, let's go ahead and do the CRON app. So it is 6:30. I need to get out of here by 7:30-ish because I need to get to the gym really badly. So let's speedrun this. So make directory cron example. Start with this one. Let's do code cron example. Let's go ahead and do this. Open it up. Open this terminal, new terminal. Go mod init, and then we're going to do github.com/bmdavis419/ I'm going to delete this because this is not working. Delete service Mongo. I don't want to incur billing for this. So I'll delete that. GoLang. Go live go examples. Yes, so it's live go examples. Go examples / cron example. This can actually be any URL you want. I just like making it match with the GitHub. So main.go. And then, hey, how are you doing? So we'll do that. And then, we've got all that stuff working. Let's go ahead and go to GoCRON. So let's use this package and let's just kind of show how this actually works. And this is really, really cool. So the first thing we need to do is we need to do, grab this part of the URL. We'll do, make sure I'm doing this right. Yep, go get. So we do go get. So this is like, if you're familiar with npm, it's basically the npm install of the Go world package main. Oh, okay. So we go ahead and get the so we've got package main here. We've done this, and now we can go ahead and grab our yeah, so now let's go ahead and just get this running. So this is going to be really simple. But basically what I want to show off is like how you can do something on a time interval. So let's go ahead and do, yeah, okay, so let's do func main. And then this is going to go ahead and do, so create the scheduler. So we're going to create our scheduler. And we're going to say we take this up here, so it's going to be s, so time.utc. That'll be fine. Actually, I'm going to do this on est because I live on est. UTC. Let me double check actually the time.location. Time.location and GoLang est. GoLang time. Location. Okay, so I need to get a location. So that's, instead of being time.utc, let's set this to est. So I'm just going to copy paste this right here. So equals time.load location, and then est, Eastern Standard Time. Now that we've got this done, you can just say if error not equal to null, panic error. And now we can go ahead and do new scheduler. Location. Beautiful. Okay, so now that we've got this new location going and our scheduler is running on est, let's go ahead and actually schedule something. So what you see over here within these docs is you can just do like every 5 minutes do something, or every 5 days do something. And this is super, super useful once you get into more production use cases. I use this all the time on the back end of my site. We use this to schedule when things get fired and when our aggregations run and all that stuff. So let's start out with just s.every one dot, let's do second. Let's do dot do, and then let's, for our task here, let's just make a task down here. Let's just do func task, and then let's just pass in like, yeah, for now we're just going to do this, and then we'll maybe add a little something into this. But what this is going to do is effectively now we can go ahead and do go run main.go, and nothing's going to happen because I didn't actually start it. So the two ways we can start this is we can either start it asynchronously, which it'll just start in the background, it'll run using go routines, or we can do it with start blocking, which will just start it and then it will block our main thread. So I'm going to start this asynchronously. So s.start async. So this will go ahead and actually no, we need to do start blocking, because if I do start async, it's just gonna close the application because it's not gonna block it. Main.go. So we're gonna go ahead and do this. So every second now we're gonna get hello world printed out. So anytime you have something that needs to run on a schedule, this is super useful for that. This hello world. So we've got our hello world printing out here. All good stuff. Now that we've got this working, I'm gonna go ahead and what's something that we could run? What's a task you could do? What's a concurrency example I could do? Something that would be cool. I don't really know. I'll just do like some. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I honestly don't know what the easiest thing to do in here is, but honestly, I think you can kind of just like add, like, just do whatever you want to do in here. I need to actually plan more, I think, to do some real, like, some cool concurrency type stuff, because I don't know of a good example off the top of my head. So we can also, Iron Showcase, that we can do like every 2 seconds. We can do these, well, if we can have multiple of these going. So then I'm just going to do an anonymous function in here. I'm going to do this, and we're just going to do fmt.println, and we're going to put in here every 2 seconds. So this one's going to be running on hello world, and that's going to be every 2 seconds. And we do go run main.go. You're going to see these are running together, and we don't have to worry about this. This under the hood is going to handle all of the like scheduling all of these and running all of these concurrently and doing all that stuff. It's super useful, super helpful. Again, this is a super basic example, but this is the kind of thing you can build where if you just came up with some like thing you needed to do where every 2 seconds we wanted to run aggregations on a database, you do this, and that's the use case I have. So super useful stuff here. This is a good example of the cron example. So let's do git add.a commit -m cron example, then git push. There we go. So we have our sort of cron example done here. And now that we have this cron example done, let's do one last thing here. And that's going to be our, what was the last one? The last one was just going to be a CLI app. So make directory CLI example. Code CLI example. I'm going to yank within our go.mod. This is like the package.json of the Go world. So in here, I'm just going to grab all this up here up to this point, and I'm going to do terminal, new terminal, go mod init, and then we're going to paste in that, and we're going to do this is a CLI example. And now that we have this done, we're going to go ahead and do main.go, and then package main. And I think the easiest way to do this is we're going to, let's just do like a basic like calculator type thing. Like really all I want to do is just show you how to read like user input and stuff. Probably should have done this first, to be honest, because like the most useful one was the API, and we got most of that implemented and scaffolded. I have a video from way back when that does a really good job of breaking down all the details there. But for now, let's just do func main, get this done for completion. So let's first do ask user which, if they want to add, subtract, multiply, divide. So then we can do, so first I want to do this. So input equals, no, I don't want to ask user for input copilot. Let me just double check. I actually realized I have not actually had to do read from standard in on Go in a very long time. Read from std in. Std in is like terminal input. Std in, new scanner. buffio.reader. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this reader up here. So what's really nice is, yeah, we just do that. Yeah. I don't think Rust is overhyped at all. I think it's an incredible language. Like I would never argue that Rust is overhyped. I think that it just doesn't work for my use cases. I think that it's over, like, I think it's overhyped in certain spaces, but as a language in general, no, I think it deserves all the praise it gets. I don't think Rust is a bad language at all. I totally support it and believe in it. I just don't, it's just not for me. That was more my point with that video. That's all. So do this, perfect. And then that's going to be reader.read string to a new line. So yeah, the \n is going to be to a new line. Reader dot, oh yeah, and this produces 2 outputs. I don't really care about the error right now. And then now what we can do is, let's just do first, let's print out what they put in. Input go run main.go. So we run this and let's just say multiply. So then now we want to do a switch statement. So does Go have switch statements actually? I forget. Yes, it does. So I just forget the syntax. Perfect. So now we want to switch on what we're doing in here. So let's go ahead and switch on the end user input. So then so yeah, let's get the 2 numbers first. So let's get the first number. First number, bam. Fnum. Try to float 64. So then we'll do float fnum and then error. Perfect. And then if let's panic this because I don't want to do any crazy error handling stuff right now. So then let's do the same thing here and let's try to convert the second number. And then we're going to convert that over. Error not equal to nil, panic. Copilot is the best thing ever for Go programming, in my opinion. Makes it so much nicer. So when the do the math section, now we can just switch on our input. On the case of add, like this is actually like basically just going to do this all for us because this is a pretty trivial problem. But what you can see here is just a good example of all of the different, like what's it called? Yeah, just the basic functions. Oh look, we have spam nonsense. New things were growing when I started getting random spam nonsense like this. Let's go. Move. Get rid of it. Yeah, cool. Okay. Goodbye. Okay. So with all of that said and done, if we do go run main.go, let's do multiply. First number is going to be 2. String convince float. Oh, we have to trim the last one. Whoops. Fnum. Ooze. Will this be uploaded later? I didn't ignore you, Mehdi. I talked about my opinion on Rust. I don't think it's overhyped at all. I was basically just saying I agree with you. For me, like, again, for me, it's not my thing, but I don't think it's overhyped. I think you're right. I think that it, like, there's a reason it's the most popular, like, most loved. I get it. It's just not for me. There we go. Okay. So now with all of that done, main.go, if we do add, let's do 3 and 2, and then add, oh, and then we need to remove the new line character from this. Switch input input, and what I'm doing here is I'm just removing the last character of our input because that last character is going to be a new line. Now finally this should go. Add 2, 4. There we go. Okay. So this is a stupidly basic little CLI app type thing, but this is just to sort of show you like the basics of input and output in Go. Again, the most useful thing here was for sure the REST API, which I will definitely be updating later and take a look at that again. What do I think about using Cloudflare workers for the API? Cloudflare is on the list of technologies I want to learn, and I do not currently know. So I do not know enough to tell you anything intelligent about it, other than I've heard good things and I want to learn it. So that will definitely be done in the future, but for now, I am not a Cloudflare guy. Okay, so commit-m, that's going to be CLI app done. Okay. There we go. All right, so with that, that is basically all of the examples done. That is, the CLI is done, the CRON is done. Those were really easy. The REST API is mostly done. The big issue it still has is the update was being super weird. The filter was off. I'm not sure if that was a MongoDB thing or like the Railway instance or something was off with that. And I'm not sure exactly what I was missing. I'm going to go back and take a look at that. In the meantime, I have a fully working example here. Let's see, Fiber Mongo example. This is a fully working like CRUD app that will do a really good job of showcasing like how to use all of this stuff. And I hosted this on GitHub, and I have a link to the video where I actually like used and did this. So I did this back in November. This one is going to be pretty great. I recommend looking at this. I will put this link down here actually. So not certain exactly. I'll go ahead and update that after the fact. But yes, I think that's about it. I need to get going, so I need to get to the gym and get some more stuff done. But thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll do this more in the future. Is it a good idea to do, I'll answer that real quick and then I'll go. Is it a good idea to do data structure and algorithms for coding interview and Go? It is up to you. For coding interviews, they typically do it in whatever language, like if you're going to do it in whatever language works for you. The most common is Python, but if it's a GoLang position, it's probably a good idea to do the interview in Go. If you can do those data structure algorithm type things in Go, or if you can utilize some of the Go specific features in them, that looks really good. So I would definitely try that. Yeah. But yep. All right. I mean, like I said, I'm going to look at Rust again in the future. So for sure there will be, yeah, for sure I will look at Rust again in the future. For right now, all I really, like, I've got my stack and it works, so I'm going to use it. But someday I'll definitely look at Rust, probably this spring would be my guess. So, but yeah, that's about it. Once again, thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you later.